Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to our farm here today. My name is Rodney Rulon. I'm part of Rulon Enterprises, our family farm here in Arcadia, Indiana. We're just north of Indianapolis and just along Morse Reservoir. It's a community here to our south in Cicero that where our kids go to school and things like that. So I'd like to welcome you here, and we're really glad to have you here to take a look around our farm today and see some of the things that we do and the way we raise food. We raise corn, soybeans, some hogs at another facility, and are really proud of the way that we do that with no-till and sustainability. Our family's been in this community for 5 generations now, so there's 5 of us currently working together on this farm, both for my generation and the next generation, and we're really proud of the way our family has worked together over those years. My grandparents lived here during the Depression. Actually lived in this house that's here beside us, and their kids, my dad and uncle, carried on the tradition. We now are happy to carry on the tradition of producing good, healthy, sustainable food that you all can enjoy and use for your products and things like that. So again, very glad to have you here. Looking forward to telling you about some of the things that we do and taking you for a look around the farm. So thank you very much, and let's go for a tour. All right, and here we are at one of our beautiful fields of Indiana soybeans. So I was just out earlier doing some soil sampling with my setup here. I'm going to talk a little bit while we're here next to these beautiful soybeans about how we approach farming and sustainability here on our farm. That's really important to us. As I've mentioned before, we think that making sure that the next generation and the generation after that can continue to farm and provide food is really important to us. So on our farm, that includes a whole bunch of different things, from the way that we farm, using no-till practices, to using cover crops, to doing something like this with our soil sampler and going out. We take several thousand soil samples every year. We do a 1-acre grid soil sampling system so that we can manage our fertility to a level that's ideal, both so we can grow a healthy and productive crop, but also so that we don't have excess and we don't waste our money, we don't damage the environment. We want to put the amount that's needed for the crop in the place where it's needed, and not things that aren't needed and where they would be at risk environmentally for running off and things like that. So that's really important to us, and part of that whole system, of course, is really the bigger picture is soil health is what we're looking for. We're looking for a healthy, balanced soil that's really alive. If we look, if we dig down in the soil here, in these beans, there's all sorts of insects and bugs and worms and microbes and fungi and all sorts of things that are growing there and living together. And those aren't something we need to necessarily try and get rid of. Those all work together to make an ecosystem that's healthy for the plants. And so, we take a lot of pride in the things that we do to foster that system and try and make that really productive and sustainable for us. So that kind of starts the way that our system here on this farm works. Is we're long-term continuous no-tillers. which means we don't plow the ground or turn the ground over or anything like that. We're trying to establish all those holes from the earthworms and the habitat for all the different beneficial insects and things like that. So we don't want to disturb that. You know, that tillage can be really kind of a catastrophic event in their ecosystem there. And so no-till, long-term continuous no-till is really important to us to establish that system, to cover the ground with residue, give all of those organisms things to eat and feed on is really important. Another part of that, really as we established our no-till system over the years, we got to a point where the biology was working and things were happening really well, and we wanted to kind of go ahead and improve that more. And so we started doing cover crops, probably 18 years ago now, probably the first time that we tried cover crops, or really the first time my generation tried cover crops, because to my grandparents, it wasn't an unusual thing. They didn't have chemicals for weed control. They didn't have synthetic fertilizers like we do now. And so they would use what they called at the time green manure crops to make nitrogen, to extract nutrients from the soil and make them available for their cash crops. And you know, so that was an art that was kind of lost for a generation, but now we're coming back to understanding how we can tie that all together, and we can use cover crops that we plant in the season here in Indiana from October to April. There's generally nothing growing on the fields, and so there's a lot of time there where we have an opportunity to put a cover crop out there that can establish and help feed this biology and keep it going, keep the system working. So, you know, really just a great opportunity there, you know, to work with the system and use those cover crops to make a healthy and sustainable soil system. So, so if we do that with the no-till and the cover crops and the fertility management, you know, all of that works together. When you have a soil that's healthy and covered, we minimize. You know, as we look off to the east here, there's a stream over there. Where our water runs off of this farm. That stream goes down and feeds a reservoir, which is a drinking water supply for the local community as well as for Indianapolis. And you know, it's really important that we don't contaminate that. We feel a lot of responsibility to our neighbors to do our best to make sure that the water that they have to drink is clean and safe, and so we don't want to contaminate that. So all of this and that healthy soil system works together to do that. Of course, the soybeans that are growing here, it's you know, really important. I think we can take a look at one here and see if we've got a good healthy root system. You can kind of see here, you know, nice healthy roots and dark soil. We're certainly, you know, just a good healthy plant developing there, and that's really important. All right, and here we are in our fertilizer and pesticide storage building. So this is an important part of the operation we added a few years back to help us in the proper containment and handling of some of the products that we use that could be environmentally hazardous, and we want to make sure that we do everything we can to keep those safe. Additionally, by having a storage facility like this where we can store fertilizers and pesticides and things long term, we're able to take advantage of some marketing buy opportunities and things like that. So this is another one of those opportunities that both works financially by giving us flexibility and opportunity to buy things at a better price, as well as environmentally by letting us store the products in a safe way that's going to keep them from getting into the groundwater or into the environment. So this building, as you look around here, we have 3 12,000 gallon tanks of fertilizer. In the back, we can also store bulk containers of herbicides, insecticides, those kind of things. And the thing that makes this all work is, as you look here, you're driving down into an actual dike. So this is an enclosed building, so we don't have to manage rainwater or do anything like that, but it's actually inside of the wall. There's a concrete wall that's about 1 foot tall, that's tall enough to contain anything in this building if it were to spill. So that keeps it from, if it spills, if we had a 12,000 gallon tank of fertilizer spill, we don't want that to run down the hill and over to the drainage ditch or to the stream. So it would be fully contained in here. You drive down this ramp into the building with the semis to load and unload your seed and fertilizer, and so you've got a safe loading area that's contained, and you can store all of that fertilizer here. So makes a really nice, clean area for us to be, safe and keep those things contained. Basically, we could fill this whole building with fertilizer tanks as we grow without the concern for rainwater, because we keep it, because we put a roof over it. So it makes a really nice facility. We've got, you can see behind you there, one of our grain trucks that we use to haul the soybeans to the processor in. So in the wintertime or off season, we can store some equipment in here, but primarily, the most important thing about this facility is that it's a safe way to store fertilizer and pesticides. And if we do have an accident, you can see on the floor here we have a sump. So all of this building will just drain to that sump. We can put a pump in there, safely reclaim that fertilizer, make the repairs we need to do, and actually, more than likely, with a little bit of cleaning and filtering, we'd be able to go ahead and use that fertilizer and apply it on the field. So kind of a win-win situation, both for us financially and environmentally, to be responsible about not having leaks and things that get off-site. So that's the way the fertilizer building works. All right, so at this location, we got a neat opportunity to take a look at some conservation practices. So these are things, we have probably 10 different conservation practices on our farm that are actually things that we can do that are environmentally beneficial. They're things that in a lot of ways, there's government programs that are offered to help us establish these, because there may not be a direct economic benefit, but there's certainly environmental benefits and long-term economic benefits for us. So where we're standing here right now, we're actually in a CREP buffer strip. So what you can see is we have a drainage ditch behind us, which is where our drain water from those tiles that we were installing would all go to. The drainage ditch then goes to a natural waterway or a creek, and then goes to the reservoir into the drinking water supply. So not only is it important that we protect these ditches from things coming out of the tiles, but the surface water going into those that would flow across these fields in large rain events oftentimes can carry sediment, it can carry fertilizer, chemicals, all sorts of things that we don't want to get into the water. So the CREP program, the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program, is a buffer program which basically pays us rent on our ground to establish these buffers instead of planting crops here. So that's something that the USDA and the NRCS do for us to help us cover the costs. So they'll help pay maybe half the price of the seeding, and then an annual rental payment for establishing these buffers, which help us to keep a nice established grass here that will filter the water and slow it down. So instead of having eroded gullies going straight into the waterways, we can have these nice grass buffer strips that kind of work to trap everything. in areas where we have more extreme slope and you might have more concentration of water, we would also have, we'd use the CRP program, just the Conservation Reserve program, for waterways. So this would be, in addition to just the buffer, an additional strip of grass that would go where it would tend to naturally gully, where the water congregates and accelerates and would tend to carry water and cut the soil away. We can put in these grass strips to avoid that. So that helps, again, to maintain the farm, keep the soil where it belongs instead of sending it down the river into the reservoir, you know, eventually from here all the way into the Mississippi and the Gulf of Mexico. So we want to keep our soil and our fertilizer here where it's needed, not send it downstream. So another nice benefit of these projects, you can see a riparian area over this way where we have trees and things. We have some areas where we specifically target habitat, both for larger animals, deer, pheasants, quail, those kind of things, as well as for insects, butterflies. You know, you've got, you get milkweeds and things like that growing along the edges for the monarchs and all of those things. But these strips can be great, very beneficial wildlife habitat areas. So that's one of the benefits, in addition to the water quality, is that we can generate these habitat areas. So there's really a lot of programs for us that help us to enhance what we're doing on the farm. In some of these areas, maybe it's a little marginal to grow soybeans or corn here next to the creek anyway. And so we can take that and do something better. We can turn it into an area where we're both enhancing wildlife and protecting the water. We have programs through the NRCS. I've mentioned the CRP and the CSP and the buffer strips. Actually, the CREP. The CSP is the Conservation Security Program, which we've participated in for several years now, which actually is just an incentive program to help us implement practices into the whole soil health environmental farming program that we have. So because we no-till, because we use cover crops, we can apply for CSP grants, the Conservation Security Program grants, that will help us to implement new practices, whether it be for nitrogen management or some sort of wildlife habitat we want to establish. So if we're on the right track, those help us move further down that road. There is EQIP programs, which are often used by people who are installing new practices. Maybe someone who hasn't planted cover crops before is not sure financially if it's a good decision for them and if it'll work on their farm. Well, they can use the EQIP program to pay for those cover crops. Or maybe there's some other practice involving animal livestock containment, keeping them out of the creeks so that they don't get fertilizer and soil, where that bare soil is, where the animals have been walking down into the creeks. They can fence them out and provide them other sources of water. Those types of programs are available through EQIP. So there's just so many programs that really can help us in areas where the benefits are more long-term, the benefits are more societal. I may not be able to say that this buffer strip made me money in my corn crop this year, but I can say that in the long term, it's going to make my community a better place. We're going to have better water quality, and we're going to have better animal habitat, which everybody's going to benefit from. So there are these programs that we participate in that really just help us to be better stewards and really fit into the whole farm program of what we're trying to do here, to be responsible producers with sustainable practices and create a good environment for the future. So again, it's a beautiful day, a beautiful area here. You can enjoy the butterflies and everything along the creek. So we're very proud of these practices that we're able to implement that help with the environment and with the wildlife. So. All right, well, thank you for coming out today. I hope you've enjoyed getting a chance to take a look at our farm and look at some of the things that we do here. We really enjoyed the opportunity to show you some of the things that we think make us different, really our practices for the future of agriculture that we think are really important, things that we can do to be sustainable for future generations, as well as to be responsible environmentally here in our neighborhood, in our world, to produce food that's healthy and safe for everyone, and at the same time to really be economic for us. The things that the decisions that we're making to use nutrients responsibly, to protect the environment, also economically makes sense for us and our farm. And I think that is the way that farming is going to go in the future. Certainly more and more is going to be towards that ability to be both environmentally sustainable and economically sustainable. So certainly, again, enjoyed having you here today, and hope you enjoyed the tour, and we'll see you later.